Welcome in, guys. Alibaba has reported highly anticipated earnings report for our users, of course. So revenue came in $35.91 billion, that's US dollars, versus $35.64, so that's a beat. And then they came in $2.79 versus $2.43. The stock price is up right now about 2.5%. It was up as much as 6% earlier this morning and late last night. Late last night, it was just kind of hovering around, waiting, anticipating, and I did see some price action moving up and down. For some reason, this was a highly anticipated stock, and even Morgan Stanley put it in one of their top 3 picks, which is very different from what we've seen for the last year. Now, let's get into some things about their highlights of the quarter. So, revenue increased 2% year over year. That's a big deal. Income from operations increased 16% year over year. And the reason that this income and net income is important is because they went through a cost-cutting structure. They were cutting costs in order to try to maximize on that net income. There was one area where they increased 69%. So clearly, management is doing something right now. Now, net income attributed to the ordinary shareholders and the net income increasing 12% year over year, increase of 138% year over year. And of course, when you start seeing all of these crazy numbers in here, that's just their currency. So don't get alarmed when you see these big numbers. Now, I want to get into a little bit more about this Taobao. So Taobao is a highly talked about area for them. It's just their online shopping platform, and it is a great place that people go. Now, Taobao has continued to deal help expanding base for manufacturers selling directly to consumers, and in December, they grew their products by more than 35% year over year. So this is just another area that they're getting into. Now, when we start talking about and also direct sales and revenue grew 10%. So when I look at all these growth numbers, what's the first thing that pops into my head? Well, I say that, hey, they're getting back on the right track. I like seeing that. But what's the number one thing that really pops into my head to say, where is this growth coming from? The COVID shutdowns. That COVID zero policy is over, and that's where the growth really started to explode. I would actually be curious to see how it happened through the quarter. Was all of this towards the end of the quarter? Because that's they let up in the latter half of the quarter with COVID zero restrictions in China. That's kind of what I would be looking at. But either way, I'm happy to see some growth finally out of them after a long couple of years of decreasing everything based on their COVID zero policies. Now, during the quarter, after inter-segment elimination, cost-cutting, revenue from non-internet industries grew 9% year over year and contributed 53% to the overall cloud revenue. When we get into the cloud revenue, it doesn't make up a massive piece of their revenue overall. I think it's about 8% right now. But when you start looking at Microsoft's Azure and you start looking at Amazon Web Services and how much those make up for both Microsoft and Amazon, Alibaba's probably going to start getting into that arena. Now, anything else in here that I highlighted? Of course, the share buybacks. So last year, they said that they were going to do $25 billion worth of share buybacks, and that was going to be completed by the end of 2025. To this point, they have done $3.3 billion. So they still have about $22 billion to go, but they are delivering on their promise and making that happen. Now, let's check out the 8 pillars for this company. There is a reason, and I have my 8 pillars, my couple pillars that I just threw in here yesterday, and then we have the EM 8 pillars. So looking at this, ROIC, I'm not terribly concerned about this right now. Why? Because of the couple of rough years that they've had going through there. They've had to deal with the COVID shutdowns. That alone right there just tells me, okay, this ROIC, I'm not super worried about it right now. Shares outstanding. They've told us their buyback program, and what's going on. They diluted a little bit, 2.39%. I'm not really concerned about it. I love the debt situation. There is not a lot of debt. They can pay off all of their long-term liabilities with their 5-year free cash flow in less than 2 years. I love seeing that. So now the net income growth. I think that this is going to come back to normal as time goes on. Again, difficult situation of what's been going on. I think that that's going to come back to normal, but we're going to check it out. And as you guys can see, I put in a couple pillars that I want to see. I made it a little bit more stringent. So 5-year ROIC greater than 12%. 5-year PE less than 25, just a little bit higher. Give it less, a little bit more than that. 22.5 number. Free cash flow, I just want to see, do they have free cash flow in the last 5 years? So yes, those are things that you can do to customize with our software. Now, we've never done this before. I've never done this before. Tim texted me last night. I decided to approve it. I am going to offer something for the oracles of EM. This is a more extensive tier where you get access to me, access to Paul. Employed Trader Series, options. We're going to go through some options and look through this. We have the Investing Club. You get chart trading. And all of these little things, more of a deep dive into investing. 7 days for $17. And once that trial period is over, you can roll right into the $79 per month, or you can roll it into paying for an entire year and you get 2 months free. So this is just a little bit more of a way for you to get deeper into investing, a little bit more intimate group, and a little bit more deeper dives. But now let's continue on here and look at what analysts are saying going forward. So I'm going to look at what analysts are saying. Then I'm going to go through some options because I'm interested in selling puts on this. I want to own this at a lower price. I know that for a fact right now. I already own the stock, but I want to own it a little bit lower than $96.94. I'm going to show you how you can generate some income while you wait for those lower prices to happen. So I would venture to say, and I'm seeing it right here, first thing I took a look at was how many analysts are getting into the future. There's a lot of uncertainty with Alibaba. Not so much uncertainty, but getting back to normal. And right now we're seeing earnings per share growth, around 10% if you average it out over 5 years. But again, when you start looking into 2026, there's not a lot of analysts making a lot of predictions on this. And of course, this is in their currency, but we're looking at maybe average of 6% revenue growth going into the future. Now, before I go into Stock Analyzer, I do want to go up here and just check out their income statement and look at what their revenue did throughout COVID. Now, when I see big jumps like this, 45 billion to 64 billion, fine, to 84 billion, and then I start seeing 120 billion, now we're getting to 124 billion. I think to myself, is this 124 billion going to come back and sit somewhere in this maybe $90 billion region? Just because it's coming back off of crazy stay-at-home buying and whatnot. Let's go quarterly. Yes. So it looks like quarterly it's kind of normalized. 22 billion, 32 billion, 27, 29, and now we're getting back to that kind of $30 billion range instead of being at 35 billion. So maybe this is normal revenue, what we're seeing right now. All right, let's jump over to Stock Analyzer tool. And for those of you that are not interested in oracles of EM, one, I don't know why you wouldn't be, but we are still offering $7 for 7 days. Try it out. You get the community and you get Stock Analyzer, which we're going to run through right now. So I am going to go through and I'm going to go 3, 6, and 9. I do think that 3 is low, but let's say that it comes back down and it goes more normal. 9, kind of high. 6 is kind of that range that I'm pretty comfortable with. Now, when we get into profit margin, I'm looking at this saying, well, the last year was 1.6. That's not normal. That's going to pull these numbers down. So I'm going to adjust my profit margin, and I'm going to make it 18, 21, and 24%. And I'm going to do the same thing for free cash flow margin, because a mature company like this, they should even out over time. Now, PE, that PE is, I wouldn't even pay attention to that PE. I'm going to go 14, 16, and 18, 14, 16, and 18. And I can really justify that 18 PE if that return on invested capital gets back to where it was before. And my return, since I beat that down so much, I'm going to go 10, 12, and 14%. Now, let's see what we have come up with. So here's my numbers, and it's pretty consistent with what I usually see out there. $121 to $219, middle ground of about $165, and the current price is about $97. Now, for those of you that are interested in the oracles of EM or interested in getting options, I look at these prices and say, well, I already have a position, but I want to own shares lower. So look at this. Let's come over here, and this is an options chain, and let's go out 60 days. So we're going to go 60 days out. It's 57 days out technically. And I'm going to look at these $85 puts. I'm interested in owning Alibaba at $85. But in the meantime, I am going to get paid to wait. And I can get about $2.30 per share. So when I make a contract with the market, they're going to give me $2.30 per share to wait 57 days to April 21st for me to get assigned these shares. If if Alibaba hits $85 on the nose or lower, I get assigned these shares at $85. If it goes to $60, I get assigned these shares at $85. But I collected $2.30 in premium along the way. Now let's say that this happens. Let's say that Alibaba goes, let's say it stays at 96. Okay? Now what happens on that expiration date? Nothing. Contract expires. I keep my $2.30. Contract's washed away. You go and find a new contract. If that sounds confusing, don't worry. It's really not. All it is repetition. Come through, join the Oracle's VM with me. 7 days, $17. I don't offer this very often. Have a great day.